Well, it's always very strange, and it's particularly difficult for people like myself coming back for these memorials because one lost so very many friends, and therefore a lot of people come and they have a party and drink a lot of beer, but it's not like that really for me, no.
Mr. Cleminson, what happened here?
Well, what happened here was I was stuck with my platoon right here on the road right there, and the Germans were firing down here, and we couldn't get any further. The intention had been to go behind the hospital, and this great big fellow turned up with General Lathbury and said, "Come on, Gerald, we've got to get through and see what's in front of us." And I said, "For God's sake, don't go any further. Who's that chap?" And that's how I first met General Urquhart. Who it was. And he said, "Gerald, we're going on." So he ran right across this crossroads here, the four of us, myself, General Urquhart, General Lathbury, and Taylor, and only one of us was hit. General Lathbury was hit in the leg.
What did you do with him?
We pulled him to that door there, in the first house in the corner, right here, and took him in, and the Dutch family that were there said, "Get him into the cellar before the Germans arrive."
This house in the corner?
This house, right here.
Didn't you find it strange to find a general here in the street, in the front line?
I said to his wife, years later, I could never understand why he did this going ahead, because I read from a book that he'd done exactly the same thing in Italy and got away with it. And she said, well, from the day the war started, he knew that he wasn't going to be killed, so he thought he could do anything. So we hurried up here. We put General Lathbury down in the cellar in this little house on the right, came through the back door, through these gardens here, and of course this brick wall and things weren't here. This was all gardens here, and the Germans were coming down the road behind us, and so we slipped up here, and as we arrived in the middle of the gardens here, Anton Dirksen very bravely said, "Now hurry, and you must come in my house and get up into the attic up there."
Pal voor het huis staat een Duitse anti-tankeenheid. Toch wil generaal Urquhart weg.
Well, he said, "I've got to get back to my headquarters." Well, I said, "You won't get back if you walk through that front door." And so he said, "Well, to Taylor, what do you think?" And Taylor said, "Well, I like James Cleminson. I think he's right." He wanted to live too. And to my amazement, the general, who'd never met me before this meeting, accepted what we'd said.
Het huis is in 60 jaar nauwelijks veranderd. Zelfs het zoldertje is er nog. De huidige bewoner nodigt Cleminson uit om boven te komen kijken.
I've never been up in the loft again.
Be careful.
Easier for us. This is like a modern escalator by comparison with what we have.
A lot of rubbish.
I don't know if you can imagine, but the general is about 3 times my size. And fortunately Taylor was about my size. We were both quite small. But the 3 of us were jam-packed in here. And every now and again I slipped down through the little hole there was there to have a look out the window and see if the Germans were still there.
In de vroege ochtend zijn de Duitsers weg en kunnen ze ontsnappen. Een mooi verhaal, maar toch een onbeduidende anekdote voor Cleminson. Het herdenken van zijn vrienden die hij heeft verloren is vele malen belangrijker.
Well, by the time that I leave, and by the time one's gone through the memorial service on the Sunday, you have a very deep feeling of, you know, it was a bad time and one lost a lot of friends, but aren't the Dutch people marvellous?